So right now, there's a lot of people in the mainstream spiritual world and in many different spiritual communities that are talking about this whole idea of the new earth. And if you're unfamiliar with the new earth is the idea that humanity is making this shift into this higher state of consciousness that has to do with love and oneness and peace, instead of living from the consciousness of the ego and separateness and fear. And the idea with the new earth is, as we make this shift collectively, then the world will start to reflect that, and we'll start to live in harmony with one another. And like I said, there'll be peace on earth and love, and that's what the new earth is all about. And this whole idea of the new earth, believe it or not, has actually been around for a while. It's not something that's new. The new earth idea is not a new idea. This is something that has been around for probably thousands of years. It's something that's actually found in the Gospel of Thomas, where this is, I think, the Gospel of Thomas saying 51, where Jesus and his disciples are talking, and the disciples are asking Jesus about the new earth, and they're saying, when will it come to the earth, and when will it happen, and what should we be looking for, all these questions about it. And Jesus is like, well, you see, it's not. The new earth isn't coming to the earth, because it's already here. And the problem is, you can't see it. So the way Jesus was framing it up was, he was saying that the new earth is a state of consciousness. It's not this literal physical new planet or something. No, it's a state of consciousness. However, when you start talking about it as something that is new, what can happen a lot of times is the new connected to this reality, this thing that we're talking about, this state of consciousness collectively, can get kind of mixed in with the idea that it's distant and far off. And we have, again, writings of this all throughout the Gospel of Thomas and in different parts of the canonical Gospels. We see this time and time again where people are asking Jesus about, when are we going to experience this utopian society, this new earth, this new world? And just about every time, Jesus points them back to something that is much different than what they're looking for and what they're expecting, what they're hoping to see externally. So what Jesus says is that the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven, is within you. It's a state of consciousness. It's not something that is distant, that's far off, that's coming to this planet. But even with this whole view of it being a state of consciousness, even with that, what can happen is we can fall back into this mentality of it being something that's new. And the reality of it is that it's not new. And that's why, for me, this is just my opinion, I think a better way of describing it is not as a new earth, but as a return to who we really are. Because that's really what awakening is. Awakening is remembrance. Awakening is not about attaining some kind of spiritual status that you don't currently have. No, awakening is realizing that you are divine. You are a spiritual being having a temporary human experience, and the whole point of your incarnation is to remember who you are, to remember your divine essence, and then to align yourself with that through the heart space, and then you let your light shine in the world and you transform the world around you. That's what awakening is all about. So, in the same way, if we're talking about some kind of collective awakening or some kind of collective shift, it's the same thing. It's the same way. It's a remembrance. We're returning back to the essence of our being, which is love, but it's not like we're attaining this love, or it's not like we're somehow becoming something. It's not about becoming. It's about being. It's about remembering. And so what can happen is, and this is something that I've experienced and I've talked to other people that have experienced the same thing, especially people that I work with in the process of awakening. They say that when they start to awaken, it feels like home. It feels like something that they've always known to be true, but this is not like an intellectual knowing. This is a deep experiential knowing. It's an impression. It's an intuition. It's something that they feel in their body. It's not something that they're thinking in the mind, in the headspace. No, this is something that some people refer to it as a gut feeling, or something that they feel deep in their bones, or, like I said, just an impression. And the reason for this is because it's not something new. What you're experiencing in awakening is not something that you haven't already experienced before. Now, in this particular incarnation, through this particular body-mind, yes, it could be something that you're experiencing for the first time in this lifetime, in this incarnation, but again, you're a spiritual being having a temporary human experience. And so this process of awakening is a return home back to your true self, which is pure spirit. And then you're letting that light shine, like I said, through the body, through the incarnation, into the world. But for a lot of people, when they first experience this on an individual, personal level, they start crying because the energy, the frequency of love that fills their body is ineffable. It's an amazing experience. But what they say most of the time, maybe not always, but most of the time, what they say, and these are the people that I've worked with, is that it just feels like home. It feels like something that has always been true, that they've always known deep down. And that's why they're crying, because it's like, you know, what happens is when we're living from the ego and we're stuck in separation consciousness, we forget, we fall asleep. And so, you know, when you first have an awakening, if you've been asleep for a while, if you've been living from the ego for your entire life, like, yes, it will feel different at first. It will feel like something's off. It will feel unfamiliar at first, but as you continue on the spiritual journey, as you continue to awaken, it all starts to come back. You start to realize who you are, and then you start to live from your true authentic self, from your soul, and you realize that you're much more powerful than you think. And through that power, through that divine essence, you can actually be the change in the world that you want to see. And this is what this whole journey is about. It's about being the change in the world. It's not about hoping for it or expecting it or wanting someone else to make the change. No, it's about you being the change after you experience your own inner transformation, after you experience your own awakening. But like I said, this is so much more of a remembrance. It's something that has always been true. But the thing that has prevented us from experiencing this and knowing this is the ego. It's the thinking mind. It's the false self. But through awakening, we transcend that. We see what is. We experience what is directly. And then we can live from the truth. And the truth is what makes us free. Now, something I want to talk about that I think doesn't get talked about enough, at least I don't hear it talked about enough in the mainstream spiritual world, is that when you're experiencing life through a human incarnation, the divine is in the body. The body is sacred. The body is holy. The body is the temple, as they say in different traditions. The body is the temple of the Spirit. The body is the temple of God. And part of you awakening, part of you returning back to your true essence is stepping into oneness, stepping into unity consciousness, where you recognize that there is no separation. Separation is an illusion. And so if that's the case, if that's true, then what that means is that you are not like this separate entity, this separate egoic self living on the earth. No, you are the earth. You're everything and nothing, obviously, from a higher dimension, from a higher reality. But as far as this life goes, as far as this incarnation goes, you are one with the earth. You are the earth. And what happens is, as you start to align with the earth and nature's laws, then all of a sudden your body starts to function properly. You become healthy. And when you're healthy, when your body is one with the earth and you're earthing and you're getting sunlight and you're drinking good water and eating real food, then this enables you to activate that divine essence within you. And a lot of this happens through the pineal gland. And the pineal gland is directly connected to light and circadian rhythm. And so this is why it's also important to get AM sunlight if you can. Watch the sunrise, set your circadian rhythm. And then when it's nighttime, stay away from the artificial blue light, stay away from anything that would disrupt your circadian rhythm. This is going to cause your pineal gland to function properly. And your pineal gland is so important for intuition and, like I said, just really unlocking your true divine essence so that you can be the change, so that you can be the light of the world. It's spirituality and everything I'm saying, it's not something that is disconnected from the physical body. The physical body is the vehicle that we're experiencing 3D life through, and it's so important. The health of the body and the way the body is functioning determines what kind of intuition we have. It determines whether or not we have intuition at all, which is so important. It determines whether or not the divine essence can flow through us and we can live from the spirit instead of living from the ego. So this is, again, I think a major component of returning back to who we really are, returning back to Eden. It's connecting with the earth, it's being outside more, it's realizing that you are not separate from anything around you. And when this happens, you will notice a shift, a major shift in your physical body. You will feel, your cells will thank you. Your cells will just radiate with love and light and healing and regeneration, and everything will just work and function in harmony. And this is when you're optimal. This is when you're at your best. This is when you can truly make a change in the world in the best possible way, because you're connected. You're living from oneness. You're living from wholeness. And I think this is very important. I think this is something we need to start talking about more, and we need to figure out what can we do to, in a way, the physical world is almost like a mirror of what's going on in the spiritual. And they're not two separate things. It's like this reflection of one another. But it's more or less the physical can be a reflection of the spiritual, of the invisible. And so that's why, for many people who are trying to progress in the spiritual journey, it's so important to understand and to integrate living healthy and optimally in not just your spiritual life, but also in your physical life and in your emotional life and your mental life. Everything is one. Now, we experience all these different facets broken up to a degree, but that doesn't mean that they're separate. That doesn't mean that they're disconnected. And so living in harmony with nature, living in harmony with God, or whatever you want to call it, has everything to do with living holistically and understanding that as we live in this state of being and as we take care of the temple, the physical body, we take care of our mental health, we take care of our emotional health, the relationships in our lives, all of that is deeply interconnected. And I think that's what it truly means on a practical level while we're here on earth, to live as one, to live from unity consciousness. And I think that once the body becomes aligned with nature and we start living from wholeness, I think it has a profound shift on our thoughts, on our feelings, on our beliefs, on our perception. Like I said, it's all interconnected. So much of this has to do with the pineal gland, activating that, making sure that that's functioning properly, making sure that what we're putting into our bodies isn't affecting the function of the pineal gland. There's so much that goes into it, but again, I think that the essence of what I'm trying to say here in this video is that this new earth shift, we can demystify it by understanding that it's not something new, it's not something far off, first and foremost. And then secondly, it's a state of consciousness that is the essence of who we really are. So we're returning back to the awareness of the true self. We're not like trying to attain or get something that we don't already have. That's the mistake that many people try to make, and they get stuck in the cycle of the ego or the spiritual ego, and they never experience what they want to experience. So we return back to presence, back to being, back to who we are, and then we realize that, okay, once this happens, what's the meaning, what's the purpose of why we're experiencing life as a human being? Because yes, we are spiritual beings having a temporary human experience, but we can't just disregard this human experience. This human experience is meaningful. It's a reflection, as above, so below, with the spiritual, with the higher dimensions. It's all one, it's all interconnected, although it seems divided and separate right now. We have to live from the greater reality of truth, which is that everything is one, everything is whole, and we integrate the spirit, we integrate the spirit with the physical, and we see that they're reflecting one another. And again, this is how, in my opinion, we can start to experience the new earth reality. But we can't forget about the earth. We can't forget about the physical. We can't forget about being human. All of these things matter. All of these things are very important for where we are right now collectively as humanity, and what we will experience in the days to come. Okay? So I think that's it. If you found this video helpful, informative, or insightful, please leave a thumbs up at the bottom of the screen, and be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.